Okay. Well, it's Tuesday, May 10th at 11:36 p.m. And I have been studying the United States Sibly chart all evening and deeply thinking about this video I wanted to put up and all the information that I wanted to prepare my followers, anybody who stumbles upon this video, let you know what I see ahead, astrology wise, for the United States, for the world. And this is going to be based off of a history of events and cycles that have repeated themselves in the past, and also from an evolutionary astrology perspective. I have Spirit Chow with me. This is Piper, little girl. You are beautiful. So she will be here for this meeting. Probably will be a longer video of mine because I have so much information to cover with everybody, and I'm going to bring up the chart of the United States and the current transits. I'm mainly going to show, probably only show the transits for the eclipse that is happening, the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio on Sunday, May 16th, East Coast time. So in some parts of the world, it'll be on May 16th. In other parts of the world, to the west of Rhode Island, it'll probably be on the 15th. So major eclipse season for us. And I've spoken about this in a few videos. So if you haven't checked out the Taurus eclipse video and the latest one I put up on the Scorpio lunar eclipse, please check that out because there's so much information in those that is evolved with what I'm going to speak about in this video, but I don't want to repeat much of that because I'd like to go deeper into the topics regarding the placements of the United States, mainly our sun, our moon, why they're being activated, the nodal axis, and the Pluto return for the United States, okay, and how this is going to affect us all together, every single one of us. So, important things to consider before we dive in. You don't have to have a strong astrology knowledge. The way I'm going to explain it will be slow and hopefully clear, and that you can pick up on the language as I speak, because evolutionary astrology does ask you to use the language, okay, the terms, when I talk about the archetypes of the planets, meaning what sign they're in, right? The planet will be what is happening or what the energy is doing when we're thinking about this as our country. The planet will represent what is going on, and the sign will be how that energy is playing out. Okay, it's like actors. The planets are like actors. The houses that the actors are playing in often represents where that energy is manifesting. But I'm not going to get too deep into the houses. I will touch on them, but this does fall across all aspects of society right now and what is playing through the collective. So the houses to me don't even, as far as the chart goes through the country, it's not really a big deal. So whatever house system you use, if you're already a practicing astrologer, the way that we can understand what is happening right now for us and how the energy is going to play out, and the conscious awareness that we can bring to the table so that we could actually, I don't want to say we can prevent some things, because I don't believe that we can prevent these things at this point where our country is at and where society is at. But I think that the more people that are aware, the people that actually have taken the time to become aware of these events that are going to play out, the better off they will be. And hopefully have enough heart and compassion within themselves to help those who didn't prepare themselves, or didn't, or chose to put their head down or avoid politics, okay, or avoid tuning in and tapping into the actual reality of the world. No judgment, but again, if an individual is not choosing to be aware of what is actually happening and understanding that they are a part of this whole co-creation of everything that's manifesting right now, well, they're a part of the problem. So, and it doesn't matter what side you choose to be on, right? If there's a side to choose, it just matters that there is a conscious awareness of what's going on. That way we can start to actually untangle the issues that are playing out in the world right now. And one of the biggest things that we are dealing with, which we can see happening quite literally with, not to get all feminism here, okay, because I'm very neutral, but the abortion issues and the control over women's bodily, choices. For instance, we're still dealing with these patriarchy, matriarchy issues, okay, which is like 2022. We're still dealing with this, and we're almost going backwards, which is insane. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but the United States is entering their Pluto return, which is a cycle that happens every 246 or 47 years. And that is when Pluto returns to the same spot in the chart the day the birth of the country was created. And astrologers use most astrologers, there's different charts you can use for the United States, but most astrologers, the consensus is the United States Sibly chart, which is July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia. Okay, so that is the chart I'm using to talk about the current transits and what's happening, so we can investigate further and see what's happening. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my chocolate almond milk. Hopefully with the food shortages, they do not stop making that, because that is, I'm going to go crazy. Another thing before we get into this is that I'm going to read some stuff from the book Cosmos and Psyche, written by Richard Tarnas. This is a excellent book. He also is the author of The Passion of the Western Mind. He is an astrologer, yes, but he is also, I believe, like a professor, and he definitely must have a doctorate degree or something. I don't really know like that much of his background, but he, ironically, quoted Sappho's, who is what my favorite asteroid is to work with. Anyway, I will read a lot of this book that he has, which took him a very long time to write. And this is very much a Bible for astrologers who are brave enough to actually take the time to read. It's a very difficult read. I think that anybody, even if you do not know astrology, you can pick up this book, but just know that you have to have patience when reading it because it is incredibly thorough and in depth. And he covers all of the history of all these planetary alignments and cycles and how it has related to our worldly events in throughout history, which is very important right now, to understand the current transits that are happening and why we might very much be on the brink of war, nuclear bombs. We are definitely going to have food shortages. We're definitely are going to be tested on our survival needs. And this is reflected as well as the alignments that I will talk about, okay, that I think people should be prepared for, as well as studying the chart and understanding evolution astrology and looking at the nodal axis and how it is playing out right now, okay? Again, watch those other videos. The Taurus Scorpio axis has to deal with our survival needs, our basic instincts to survive, our money, our food, our body, our sensual needs and comforts, sexuality. We can see a lot of sexuality, sex issues coming out in the news on the table right now, child trafficking and sexual abuse and everything in between. You know, the dark secrets are being surfaced. I even think that we'll start to get more surges around UFO intelligence or lack of sharing that of, just because the esoteric nature that Scorpio can reveal. I think, and we're going to have, we currently have Mercury in Gemini retrograde right now, who will move back into Taurus. And I have these dates and I'll get into that too. But later in the year, on August 21st, Mars will enter Gemini, and that will be a major transit that will last until 2023. And Pluto moves into Aquarius around that time, and that is going to be a major new shift and beginning for society, for humanity. And this year is leading up to that, and it's very, very crucial and important, and I think might be even more intense than 2020 and those events. So this isn't to scare you. This is to just literally have a serious conversation that I have with everybody in my personal life and who wants to look at the astrology from a no bullshit approach. Look at events, look at past events and past history, and be prepared. Okay, because rather be prepared and be aware and knowledgeable than not. So astrologers were predicting COVID before COVID happened. Why wouldn't the same thing happen now for these same transits that are showing up that happened around World War I, World War II, Soviet War, Vietnam, okay, Iraq, okay, World Trade Center, everything, all of these events, the events that we've gone through and are going through are linked to the same repeats of pattern, okay, patterns in history. So I'm going to pull up the chart and I'm going to talk about why the nodes are so important first off, and then I'm going to get into some of the transits, okay, because it's very important that we understand why the nodes matter when we're looking at a chart. And watching a bunch of webinars from Jeffrey Wolf Green again, and he says something in one of the webinars and it sticks with me because it is so true that without the nodes, we would not read the chart the same, okay? We would not be able to look at a chart and understand it without them, basically the same way that we do with them, okay? And so what do the nodes do? The nodes reflect the arc of evolution through a lifetime. Okay, it's an arc. Think of like the rainbow arc. Okay, the south node looks like a horseshoe upside down, right? It's like two circles, and I'll pull it up in a second. That is our past lives. That is our past memories, where we've collected past lives and where we are coming from. As a country, it's a collective amount of that, okay? And as an individual, it's your individual past lives, okay? But we're talking about the United States, so this is the collective, right? Where we're coming from. And then the arc towards the North Node is the evolution. It's the parts that we're growing towards that we might not know quite yet, but we might not have evolved towards yet, okay? Or we're trying to evolve into even more, okay, to grow. And that will look like the top of a horseshoe, okay? And that is how we can study a soul in its many lifetimes and where it's evolving towards and what boundaries it can come up against, perhaps, or conflicts, or blind spots, or anything that might inhibit the soul from growing. Okay, so and it takes spiritual awareness, it takes consciousness, and it takes a human to want to evolve as well, and not reject what the soul is trying to move towards. Okay, it's very important. And Pluto in the chart would represent that point of total regeneration, the death and rebirth process of the soul, moments in time of destruction or complete disempowerment, but also empowerment. And that goes the same for Pluto in the chart of the United States. Okay, that Pluto, our Pluto point, which is in Capricorn for the United States, will represent that. Where we have power, but where we are also most disempowered, especially when these forces are acting in their lesser potential, okay, which they have not been working. So, and one of the beginning quotes when I was kind of looking up stuff in Richard Tarnas's book was, it's just a quick sentence. It says on the chapter, The Planets, an archetypal principle is thus not so much defined as evoked. Okay, an archetypal principle is thus not so much defined as evoked. And what that sentence basically means is that these archetypes of these planets are evoked out of events. Okay, they are these certain transits and events happen and they pull out these qualities within these archetypes, and then we will watch them manifest and play out as energy all around us, and we are a part of that as well. Okay, the entire world is, and the country is, a reflection of how all of us individuals are functioning together. And it just so happens that the United States has a moon in Aquarius. So the moon represents the way that the soul sees itself, or in case the way that the country is seeing itself. And it happens to be in a humanitarian sign, Aquarius, which rules over groups of people and societies. Okay, so the way that the United States sees itself is through Aquarius dynamics, groups of people and society. Okay, so we'll uncover that as well, because it's very important for our chart. So I'm going to bring up the chart now. Okay. Move this over here. Okay, so on the inside is the United States chart. Sad rising, Aquarius moon, Cancer sun over here. Let's see if I can change my mouse. Spotlight. Maybe not. Forgive me for a minute. I'm still figuring this out. Okay. I don't like that. You can see the arrow though, probably better. Great. So here we have the United States Pluto return right here. As you can see, this planet in the red at 27 degrees Capricorn, conjunct the South Node in Aquarius. Okay, the United States South Node is in Aquarius. That means its North Node is up here in Leo. Hopefully you can see that at 6 degrees. So weird. This is annoying. Sorry, guys. Figure this out. Okay, anyway. So the ruler of the South Node, I use modern rulers. I don't use traditional. You could use traditional. I think that you can get to the same reading anyway with traditional and modern. But you know, we have evolved, and I'm all for using what we've evolved towards and the new knowledge that we have gained throughout the centuries. So I use Uranus as the ruler of Aquarius. Okay, so we're going to also want to know, okay, the South Node is ruled by Aquarius, and also Uranus over here in Gemini, which is going to be activated starting in October when Mars moves into Gemini and then retrogrades back over it. Okay. And there's going to be sudden events that happen and shift us as society. This is happening in our day-to-day life. And it also is going to rule over Gemini qualities. So communication, definitely social media, the news in general, transportation of things, because Gemini has affiliation with Mercury, and talking with one another, and then getting hit by Mars, this planet that likes to destroy and cut through and cause tension. And it's a warrior archetype of a planet. Okay, so it's going to be in Gemini, and it's going to be stirring up any issues around that. So not to talk negative about Mars, and our natal, our Mars is in Gemini as well for the United States. And, you know, Mars can be a very helpful planet towards getting things done and evolving us towards growth and having courage. Okay, having courage to initiate change or a new beginning is definitely a Mars theme. And when that is going to begin to hit our Uranus in October, it's going to initiate sudden new changes and beginnings, or destruction even, that is unexpected, that is shocking and liberating in a sense. And that is going to be part of this transformation back to the South Node in Aquarius, because it will also be trining our South Node in Aquarius. It will be making aspects to that. And these two have affiliation with each other when the ruler of the South Node gets activated, like it will. Okay, so when the ruler of one of the nodes gets activated, or one of the nodes gets activated, like it is as well, we experience significant changes. Okay, so to understand deeper what this Aquarius archetype means, okay, I'm going to read another section from his book, because he does such a good job at explaining archetypes and planets and their energy. And he anybody who's read his book, he just does it phenomenally. So I'm gonna read a section about Uranus. And when you think about this playing out through the south node of the United States, conjunct Pluto, the moon of the United States in Aquarius, okay, and the Uranus, the ruler of the south node, that is going to be heavily activated towards the end of the year in October. And just to reiterate as well, that the lunar eclipses that we're experiencing this year, the next one on May 15th and 16th, and then especially the one on October 25th and November 8th, those will heavily activate the South Node Pluto conjunction in the United States Sibly chart. And when Pluto and the South Node are conjunct like they are in our chart, that means that the collective consciousness of the United States must go under an absolute destruction and transformation of its past structures and ways of uniting together, okay, for the soul to ultimately evolve into a new sense of itself, okay, and go into that north node, which is ruled by the sun, which is in Cancer, okay. So the ultimate goal is for the United States to liberate itself from these constraints that our society has put on us, the government control or the laws that we have put in place for ourselves, that we have built our country on, are now up for liberation in a very accelerated and erratic and unexpected way, okay, shifts. So Richard Tarnas writes, okay, since at last, the turn of the 20th century, the unanimous consensus among astrologers is that the planet Uranus is empirically associated with the principle of change, rebellion, freedom, liberation, reform and revolution, and the unexpected breakup of structures, with sudden surprises, revelations, and awakenings, lightning-like flashes of insight, the acceleration of thoughts and events, with births and new beginnings of all kinds, and with intellectual brilliance, cultural innovation, technological invention, experiment, creativity, and originality. In addition, the occurrence of sudden breakthroughs and liberating events, Uranus transits are linked to unpredictable and disruptive changes. Hence, the planet is often referred to as the cosmic trickster. So that's really important too, that we understand all of these things that the Uranus transits will bring. One of the things about astrology is that when we study an archetype, such as this Uranus or this Aquarius theme, the South Node in Aquarius, it is involved with a trinity, okay? Each archetype is a part of a trinity where it rules over a house. So in this case, Aquarius, the 11th house, and the planet Uranus. So when we're studying an aspect of a chart, we will incorporate the trinity of that entire archetype and figure out the repeating themes and the patterns within the chart. Okay, so in this case, we need to heavily focus on this South Node and what we are liberating ourselves from, what we are breaking free from. Well, this is conjunct Pluto, but Pluto is in Capricorn. So this is the structures that have been put in place that are crystallized, and that have cemented themselves in a way that have caused almost a suffocation effect on humanity itself, okay? And that's why all of these issues we see now in the world and for the United States is coming up, okay? Many of these transits are also affecting the entire world in different states and different areas, because the transits also include some of these same themes that are within the United States chart, okay? So when you watch the lunar eclipse video, you will understand how the current transit of Saturn in Aquarius squaring the transits of the nodal axis, the south node in Scorpio up here, right, which we will experience conjunct the moon on the lunar eclipse on Sunday. And then Saturn is also square the north node over here in Taurus, okay, with the sun still in Taurus, obviously on the eclipse. Well, that T-square Saturn is falling right on the United States moon in Aquarius. So the United States moon in Aquarius is very much a part of this a whole eclipse that's happening on Sunday, okay? And a square is that tension. And that Saturn and that moon, that transit Saturn conjunct our country's natal moon, is at the apex of that T square, okay? It's right in the middle. It is through the south node. It is through the letting go of the attachments that we have to things deeply rooted within us, passed down from many generations and lifetimes. Quite frankly, I think so big, the way that I think so big, so far back, 6,000 years ago, when we were a matriarchal society and monogamy was not a thing, and women had freedom and women were respected. And then the patriarchy wanted to have control over property, over the control of things, over judgment of things, and religion was formed to try to control people. These are all Capricorn themes that are deeply rooted within our souls. Pluto, soul, deeply subconscious patternings, deeply rooted in our soul. And it's quite interesting that, you know, this now is just coming really up as I think overall humanity is ready to look at these kind of issues and these psychological patterns that are very esoteric in nature, but very psychology based too. Well, Pluto wasn't discovered until 1930. And that's really when we started to begin to understand Sigmund Freud's understanding of the ego, okay, of the ID. And then we had Carl Jung, who I deeply resonate with, Carl Jung psychology, who studied with Sigmund Freud and who took Sigmund Freud's level of understanding of the unconscious into another level, okay, and mixed it with astrology and looked at it from a more compassionate theme, which again, pros and cons to everything, right? Correct. But back to like what we're talking about now is that the total evolution of our deeply rooted soul issues are up for review right now. And it is definitely rooted to the imbalance of the masculine and feminine in the overall of society. Whether we want to think it's as simple as that or not, it is, because it has to do with control. It has to do with the understanding of not having judgment for other people having different belief systems, of not wanting to control somebody for the choices that they want to make, whether that is their beliefs or how they want to deal with their body or their sexual orientation, okay? This brings a lot of suffering, because when people are suppressed and they're backed into a corner and they feel fearful, they retaliate with anger and pain, usually, okay? I think more of us now are learning skills on how to deal with our emotions, which is a part of this, right? Which is why the feminine was blocked for so long, right? Because when we do think of feminine, we automatically think of the emotion, and that the masculine should suppress it. Well, reality check, everybody has masculine and feminine, and everyone has emotions, and I wouldn't coordinate emotions with masculine or feminine at all. Okay, it's neutral. Everything's neutral. That's why I try so hard not to say Venus is a she planet, because Venus can be both the masculine, feminine energies, and it emanate both of that balance. Okay, and it's a part of restoring that now for us as a humanity. Okay. And this is definitely significant right now that we can see it in the chart. Okay, so how do we fix this, right? You know, another thing too is like these are transits that you will not, these are once in a lifetime transits that our souls have chosen to be a part of now. And I think that there is a part of responsibility that all of us need to take and a part of this change. And I don't mean like you have to go on Instagram or YouTube and make videos and, you know, start teaching about this stuff, but I think it's actually really important that we're communicating. It's 12/12, so it's the time of the eclipse on, as I'm saying this, the time of the eclipse on Sunday. I think it's important that we're communicating these things and that we're opening up our minds and our perspectives to how these disruptive changes will come through, because they're going to happen. Okay. And if anything I can teach as a practicing astrologer who very much likes to learn through my own experiences, is that when you are not conscious of the energy and working with the energy happens to you, because that is how energy flows and works. It is not destroyable. This is Einstein stuff. Okay. This is science stuff. Energy simply has to move, but you cannot destroy it. Okay. So a sudden breakthrough and change is needed like this on a very huge collective level in the way that we are governing ourselves, in the way that we have tried to suppress and control our people. This is now asking for liberation and freedom. And this will be definitely in the world, on a world state, not just the country, but the entire world will absolutely feel this when Pluto moves into Aquarius as well, which is coming up within a year. So that will be a major, major transit when a planet as powerful and potent as Pluto moves so slowly. Okay, so I'll read you also what Richard Tarnas wrote about Pluto so that you understand this planet as an archetype and its potency. Okay, because we're talking so much about it, right? This is the United States Pluto return. So these themes become evident when we have Pluto transits, especially once in a lifetime ones like this. Here we go. To summarize the consensus of contemporary astrologers, Pluto is associated with the principle of elemental power, depth, and intensity, with that which compels, empowers, and intensifies whatever it touches, sometimes to overwhelming and catastrophic extremes. With the premortal instincts, an aggressive, destructive, and regenerative, volcanic and cathartic, eliminative, transformative, and ever evolving with the biological process of birth, sex, and death, the cycle of guttural discharge of pent-up energies, with upheaval, breakdown, decay, and fertilization, violent discharge, purifying fire, situations of life and death extremes, power struggles, all that is titanic, potent, and massive. Pluto represents the underworld and the underground in all senses: elemental, geological, instinctual, political, social, sexual, urban, criminal, mythological, demonic, It is the dark, mysterious, taboo, and often terrifying reality that lurks beneath the surface of things, beneath the ego, societal conventions, and the veneer of civilization, beneath the surface of the earth, that is periodically unleashed with destructive and transformative force. Pluto impels, burns, consumes, transfigures, resurrects. It is associated with all myths and descent and transformation, and with all deities of destruction and regeneration, death and rebirth. Dionysus, Hades, Persephone. Persephone is one of my favorite asteroids too. Medusa, Lilith, Inanna, Isis, the serpent power, Kundalini, Shiva, Kali, and Shakti, just to name a few. Okay. So Pluto, we don't mess with Pluto. Okay. And as an archetype, you know, that's why evolutionary astrologers, we work with Pluto, because it is the ultimate transformation of the chart. Okay, so the nodes are the arc, the guiding way that we can get there. Okay, and where we might need to come from to go to. Okay, and we have the South Node in Aquarius conjunct Pluto. So us as a humanity really needs to transform this. Okay. And so now we'll talk about the North Node. Okay. Because how do we get there, or where are we striving to go towards as a humanity, right? That would probably be really helpful to know. So our North Node is always the opposite sign, all right, of the South Node. And it happens to be in Leo. Taking another sip. Leo, the North Node ruler of the Leo North Node, sorry, is the sun in Cancer. Okay. So we must work as a entire humanity to go to the heart of the chart, which is the sun in Cancer, which is an overall expression of a country that is focused on the nurturing, safety, security, and meeting of needs, okay, within a country. And this sun, our sun sign as a country, falls in, follow me, I know this is a lot, but it falls in the house of Libra. So we layer these things when we study evolutionary astrology. This is why it's brain surgery, okay? But it's really not, when we can pick it apart and understand it and slow down and really reflect, okay? So a Cancer sun is a country in a Libra house. This means that we can nurture each other and listen, Libra qualities, listen to each other's needs, Libra qualities, right? And cultivate a sense of safety and security as an entire country, okay? And we can do that through the Leo quality as well, the self-expression of being able to do that, okay? The heart chakra, if you would think about it like that, okay? Being the protector, the lion, right? Think about how the lion acts in its pack. The lion is bold, it's courageous, it is heart-centered, it's full of love. It can be the shining center of creativity. So as a country, we can be really creative and allow for the self-expression of all of us individuals in the United States to be able to feel safe enough to be themselves and have a sense of security and safety in a home. Okay, I find it wildly ironic that as a country with such a nurturing sun sign, that we are fucking it up for so many people to not feel safe in their own country and their own homes. Okay, and the evolution of our country wants us to get there. It wants us to grow into that. And we're not doing a great job. Okay. That is why these eclipses this year and these transits this year are going to usher our country into major, major shifts and changes to face the fears around our security and safety. Okay. And usher the growth and stability, the North Node and Taurus, usher us into that pattern. Okay. We'll just chew on that for a minute. Another thing too is that Jupiter today moved into 0 degrees of Aries at the bottom of the chart. Okay, so remember when we talked about the Trinity in evolutionary astrology, whenever we look at a planet, we will take in the Trinity of that planet, right? Our sun is in Cancer. So we'll look to the Cancer house, which is the 4th house, and we will look to the moon because Cancer rules the moon. So we'll look to the moon in Aquarius. Well, let's backtrack. Okay, so our sun in Cancer and our 4th house is ruled by Aries. Well, this is us now. Jupiter has just moved into Aries. Jupiter governs our belief systems, our cosmology as a country, our religion, if you will, and the natural laws that we are governing ourselves by. Okay, except right now our country is not governing ourselves by natural law. And what is natural law? Natural law has to do with the Sagittarius archetype, which is a repeating theme in our rising sign. Okay, this is how our country should be coming out in natural law, matriarchy, right? Back to the balance of the masculine and feminine, back to the way that creation started from. Okay, and this is history. This is like not me being like a philosophical person over here. Like, this is literally history events that we can go back to. You know, Adam and Eve didn't begin, it was Adam and Lilith that began. Okay, and a lot of people who are super religious right now are going to get really upset at me, but this is a part of educating yourself, investigating, going back, reading books, doing research on your own instead of growing up and being told what to do and putting your head down. Okay, it's not time for that anymore. It's time to be an individual and find your own research and your truth, and liberate yourself from the compression that has happened from so many centuries. Okay, so we're having this Jupiter transit, 0 degrees in Aries, establishing laws in a new direction. You will see it right down here, right? Entering our 4th house, which has to rule over the foundation of the country, the home life of the country. It's the Cancer archetype in the natural zodiac. Okay, so it's about bringing in an initiation of change and new beginnings into that area of our country's life. Okay, and this will be reflected. Okay, and Aries can be a crusader for change in a very positive way, or the Aries can be your absolute worst freaking enemy, let me tell you, because I'm an Aries. So if you have an Aries empowered or acting in a very courageous way, that Aries archetype will be a love warrior, because the Aries does want to come from a heart space. It's being birthed out of Pisces, for God's sake. Okay, everyone thinks Aries is so ignorant and just like brash, and they can be for sure, but they're coming out of the Pisces. They're being birthed from the womb. They are emanating love. They're just new energy. They're learning through new experiences. And we have Jupiter entering in. We've got Venus, our planet that rules relationships and how we're relating to one another, already in Aries, transiting, asking for us to think about new ways of initiating and having new beginnings and new relationships with one another. Okay, and creating that change, but let it come from a place that is deeply rooted in what is best for all of us. Okay, and I know that that can be a huge question in itself, what is best for all of us. But that is going to take the conversation and the work, which we kind of missed the boat on because we just had the nodes that left Gemini and Sagittarius, where more of those conversations should have been had. But you know what? Sometimes we don't understand what the transit actually meant for us until after the transit is over, because time lags anyway. Time isn't really a thing. It just goes with the flow. Okay. And we're riding the waves. So we still can have the conversations, we can still be communicating, but now we're going to have to absolutely emotionally process these things on a deeply psychological level, as depicted by the current nodes, the South Node in Scorpio and the North Node in Taurus. Okay. There is a lot going on right now for us as a collective and as a country. And you know, Jupiter and Aries can also bring about leaders who want to react aggressively or too quickly in a negative way, and that don't react with the patience or make decisions or are lawmakers, because Jupiter also rules over our law and institutions, courts. Okay, we can see things over the next few months happen too quickly, perhaps, that really upsets many of us and could possibly create a divide among people in our country. Okay. And Jupiter will stay in Aries until midsummer. It will dip back into Pisces, where we can possibly recover from any negative events that happen if we are aware. And then it will move into Aries again for most of next year. Okay, so just to be aware of those transits. Lastly, I want to point out, because I know this is going to just be a lot of information to process, especially if like you are relatively new to astrology and trying to learn or be aware and focus. I commend you for staying with me and getting this far. Okay. So I went into Richard Tyrnus's books and looked at the Saturn Pluto conjunctions that were happening over the course of the years. He has a great graph, but then I wrote in the corner the wars that happened, or the global crises that happened, just to give you all an awareness of why these patterns are showing up and why this Saturn Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in 2020 that set off COVID could be related to some very intense and powerful events to come in the next year or so. Okay, as we're entering into, I believe, the opposition. So Saturn Pluto conjunctions, squares, or oppositions have repeatedly brought times of Saturn Pluto qualities of crisis, okay, and destruction and regeneration and rebirth, mass, killings, warlike things, economic crashes, okay, very negative instances, this destruction of what was once compressing us or causing conflict or restriction, and or that is bringing up those dynamics, which then we have to recover from the aftermath of that, right? And it's been years of this process. So now we can see as a humanity, all of our hurt and pain, because everything is a mirror, and Mother Nature and Earth and natural law, Gaia, all right, Mother Earth is a reflection of us as humanity as well. Well, now we can see these happening as well globally, global issues. The United States is having issues with power supplies. Fossil fuels are an issue, okay? How are we going to run our technology? How are we going to run our food? Like, all these issues are now coming up, and they've been around, but nobody wanted to look at them until they're too late. So my hopes now with the rise of astrology, thanks to technology, thanks to the movement into the Aquarius age, and thank you to COVID, really, that we can use tools that have been ancient, that have been used for 6,000 years beyond, okay? I would like to think galactically, we can use this now to save humanity and our societies and our planet, because our planet is suffering because it is reflecting back at us what we are reflecting to it. Okay. It's all connected. Just had a podcast episode about plant consciousness, for instance. And that could open up your eyes to how our food and our resources are also intertwined in how they are affected by how we are reacting to them. Okay, so back to the Saturn Pluto cycle, I'm just going to riff off some dates and what happened so that you can start to think about, oh, okay, these planetary alignments are related. Okay, they are related. So between October 1914 and May 1915 was the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and that was the beginning of World War I. Between January 18th and October 1922, that was when Hitler began to take rise into power. And there was a bunch of other events that happened as well. This book explains them all, but I just highlighted like the easiest major ones because this video would be hours long. By the book. February to December 1931 was the economic crisis because of the war. June 1939 to April 1940, World War II began, and the atomic bomb signing was began. So the atomic bomb was going to be created. July to August 1947, Cold War. I forgot to write 1955 to October 1956. There's something. April 1965 to February 1966, that was the opposition, the Vietnam War. August 1973 to June 1974, the US was defeated in Vietnam, which was not good for our people. And I believe that there were some other crises going on in Asia at the time as well. Okay, because again, these Saturn, Pluto cycles and everything we're experiencing right now, and that was just set off from 2020, not only affects the United States, but it is also affecting other parts of the world. October 1982 to July 1983, global defenses were put up because, and there was a surge of like fear basically all around the world because of the nuclear threats and the nuclear bombs going off. And then that caused panic and crises in a bunch of countries, borders to be put up, you know, Saturn things like constrictions, borders to be put up, laws like, you know, other countries fighting with one another and all that. So March 1993 to January 1994 was the square. I didn't write that. July 2001 to June 2002, war in Middle East started. Oh, okay. 1993 to 1994 was when Saddam Hussein started threatening the United States, and that was starting to go down. And there started to be wars in the Middle East. Obviously, all the atrocities that were happening, those began in the Middle East. And then we had the attack in the opposition, 2001 to 2002. And then November 2009 to August 2010, we had the recession, which also brought in Barack Obama. And then we had that whole divide and everything from the country, which led to, you know, now to Trump Biden stuff, right? So it's all like, it's all connected. And this is all a part of these Saturn Pluto cycles, okay? And then December 19th to obviously January 2020, we had the conjunction that started COVID. And what happens is that these Saturn Pluto cycles move in a in a cycle. So 30-year cycle, really. So Saturn and Pluto will conjunct. And then Saturn moves along. It takes about 7 years. It forms a square. Then it takes another 7 years and it forms the opposition. Then it takes another 7 years and it forms the closing square, right? Opening square, opposition, closing square. And then it reaches another conjunction again and sets off another pattern. Okay. But again, these things are always around these Saturn Pluto themes, these Uranus themes as well that I mentioned, because Uranus was in the mix with this and is heavily in the mix now and makes up so much important energy in the United States Sibly chart. Okay. So that's why I talked about that at the beginning. You know, these are strong energies, and even as like a newer astrologer as myself, you know, you wish I had started studying 10 years ago, but even if you're just getting involved now, I'll tell you, for, you know, me being 2.5 years in now or so, I have accelerated my knowledge because I put the time and effort in, and we can all do the same, no matter what it is we feel we are called to be a part of this safety net, right? This cultivation of creating a civilization for us to live in that is not only compassionate and judge-free, but more balanced. And basically, we must recover from the imprint of all of our past lives and societies that we're carrying on, okay? That we've been told what to do or conformed what to do, or, you know, it just goes back down to like even simple things where, you know, somebody grows up in a broken home and they want to break free from the patterning of their parents, so they decide to be different parents. Okay, so we can actually do that now as a country on a bigger scale. We decide that we don't want to be like our founding fathers who had slavery and women couldn't vote and all this bullshit, and letting these dark energies ruin us and govern us and have control and tell us what we can do, what we can't do, where our money's going to go. We can see the split in the economy and the rich and the poor, right? Why couldn't we bring it all back to being more equal and more whole, still allowing people to, you know, be successful as successful as they wish, and you know, and things like that. But it is time to bring things back down in more balance before they get really out of control. So, and I guess like I will leave you with too is that we are on a revelation. We're on the brinks of a revolution, sorry, for change. And I am looking at this as like a bad breakup, you know, as like a really bad, hurtful breakup with the way that we used to be. And a part of that is going to be definitely to be able to emotionally and psychologically process how these events are going to happen for you. And the best way that you can do that is to get grounded and to dig your feet into the earth and go back to what really is important and of value to you when it comes to your basic needs on a day-to-day level and survival. Okay, is it love? Is it water? You know, is it peace and calmness and serenity? These are Taurian themes. This is where the North Node is right now. So really focusing on what the transits of the North Node are doing helps us collectively evolve towards where we need to go as a country. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I know that it was long, and please feel free to like drop me a comment. Tell me if there was something you would like further explained or could have been explained more in depth. Give me some feedback, as I'm very much trying to become better at explaining these things and teaching these things, especially for new astrologers and beginners, because I very much want to be a part of that change that helps people learn the language of astrology. And if you're curious about where this is showing up for you, of course, or how you can be impactful in the world or in your own personal life, you can always book a reading, an evolutionary reading with me. If you don't know if you need a reading, I'm open to you just sending me a message, a quick message on Instagram or an email, and just being like, hey, Makayla, like, I don't know if I'm like, but this is what I'm going through, and da 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 da. We could see if, you know, I can help you, or if I can direct you to somebody who might be better suited. You know, I am just here to help. On a positive note, my Sacral Chakra Oracle deck is going to be should be in on Friday. So if you have not purchased yours on the pre-sale, you should do so now. We're going to start shipping them out. Lots of people bought them, so I'm super, super pumped for everybody who has bought one to get their deck. And overall, you know, guys, like, don't like live in a state of fear, and definitely enjoy your life right now. You know, I don't want you to wake up in a panic or anything like that. Oh my God, we're going to have a World War III. Makayla said so. You know, just be aware of the energy and prepare yourself. Okay. Do you have food? Do you have water stocked up? Do you, you know, have some, you know, band-aids? You know, do you have have you called your friends? Mercury retrograde, have you called those that you love that you haven't talked to in a while? Because community is going to be very important, and you're gonna want to be surrounded with the right people who align with you, and that could really help you through difficult times. Okay, this is about connecting to each other. And this is also my reminder, like my video, please like and share it, because it helps me grow. And if you have not checked out the lunar eclipse videos I have put out there on my Instagram, and one is like a 40-minute video on the lunar eclipse, and the solar eclipse is a 20-minute video. It's a little bit less. And I'll be back soon on some other energy that's coming up too. So I hope that this was helpful, not as confusing. And we are going to be a-okay, because we always are. So, all right, let's just be prepared and help one another grow. Sending my love, everybody. We're all mad here. Okay, ciao.